Hi, I'm Donna Jordan from Jordan Fabrics. Today, I'm going to show you how to make a jelly roll race quilt, a new jelly roll race quilt, one where you can control the size of it, so you can make it exactly the length you want. I've done a lot of math here. Just ignore the numbers, you don't have to see all that. And we are going to add accent fabrics, jelly rolls, and we're going to make the perfect size quilt. Here is the jelly roll race quilt I made a couple months ago. This is the jelly roll drag race. It was tons of fun to make and it goes really, really fast. That's one of the reasons why people love the jelly roll race quilts. The thing they don't like about it is you can't control the size. Also, the strips usually come out horizontal and I like my strips to go vertical a lot of times. So with a jelly roll race quilt, generally speaking, you make a long strip of all your strips and then you fold it in half again, fold it in half, and it ends up this size. You can't control the size at all. The method I'm going to show you today, you'll be able to make this exactly the size that you want. Let me show you what we're going to do. We're going to take the jelly roll strips. Here's a long strip, and we're going to put 3 accent squares in there. And we're going to use these fabrics over here for the accents, and we're going to put those in by making a strip unit and then cutting it up. Now for size, if you have one roll, you can make about a 58-inch square quilt. I don't normally make square quilts, but you could also make it rectangular, and these are just approximate sizes, so we could make a 48 by 70. Now if we have 2 rolls, we can make an 82-inch square, or you go in rectangular, it's about 76 by 90. 3 rolls, we're getting up into a king size here. You could make 100-inch square or about 92 by 110. And of course, all of these can have borders added, and these don't have to be your exact dimensions, but this is giving you an idea of what you can do. So I'm going to have this information as a free pattern on our website, so you don't have to remember any of this, but let's get started sewing. I'm going to use 1/4 yard of each of these accents, and I'm going to cut it into 3 strips at 2.5 inches each. I'm going to make a strip unit in that order. So let's take the first 2. Just line up the edges and sew using a 1/4 inch seam, and use a small stitch length because these are going to get cut after we sew them, and so that helps that seam allowance not come apart if you use a small stitch length. Now I'm going to finger press this to one side because it makes the next step of ironing much easier. So just open it up, either use the pad of your fingers or your fingernails if you've got them, and draw that right down there, and that will just make it lay nice and flat when we iron. Now we'll add this 3rd piece right here. Same method, don't stretch anything, just put the edges nice and even. And finger press this one, same direction. So make 3 of these strip units, and that will give us enough to do the whole quilt. Now this is already pretty flat because we finger pressed, but I do like to give it a good steaming. I've got all 3 strip units here, and because this is a race and I want to go fast, I'm going to cut them all at the same time. So I've lined the first one up on one of the lines on my cutting board there. Then I'm going to put this one on top, but an inch higher, so it's still on a straight line. Then I'm going to put this one on top of that, 1 inch higher. I'm still only going to be cutting 3, 4, or 5 layers all at once, but I can take my blade and my ruler and my glasses. I'm going to start right here because I don't like the edges, which are not always as straight as the rest of it, and we can cut it all at one time. Now we're going to cut these 2.5 inches. So you can see how fast that is, and every one of these we've got 3 units all at once. So I only need 40 total, so I'm going to cut a few more and then we'll sew these up with our strips. I'm going to use the strip set from Hoffman. This is what they call a bolly pop, but it's 2.5-inch strips, and this is all batiks. I don't want to be too picky when I put these in order, but I'm going to have to look a little bit so we don't end up with a lot of the same color in one spot. So they've got it pretty well mixed, except for here we've got quite a bit of light all piled up there, so I'm probably going to stick those lights down here a little bit. You can't really tell exactly where the pieces are going to end up because we're going to put it into a big long strip, but I don't want to have like these two greens in a row. That's going to bother me. So let's put one up here. I'm going to put this one here. And now we've got the colors. Let's put this pink here. And now we've got the colors pretty well mixed up. All right, so let's take this big lump over to the machine. All we have to do now is take a strip and sew one of these accents to it. Then stitch it with a 1/4-inch seam. And finger press it. Always finger press that direction. Now we're going to grab the next strip, stitch it on, and keep finger pressing every time. And add another accent. So we're going to do this for all the strips and all the accents. I have all my strips and strip units sewn into this one really long piece here. And you'll notice I've got it in a little plastic bin. I think a bin or a box is a great thing to catch your patchwork so that you can move it easily, in this case, and also so it doesn't get dirty. So I'm gonna make the 70-inch, the 48 by 70 inch. So I'm gonna wanna make my first strip 70 inches long. So let's just measure that off here. And we will cut it about 70.5 inches long. I want a little bit of extra length because we're going to trim the whole quilt when we're done. And this doesn't have to be really, really straight because, like I said, we will square it off afterwards. So that's my first row here. Next row is going to start right here. So we're going to take the bucket and the row, and we're just going to go back over to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew this all the way along that edge. So I'm going to put the bucket right here on the floor, and this will feed right out. We're going to put right sides together, and we're going to sew all the way along this edge using a 1/4-inch seam. And this part goes really fast. This is where the racing part comes in. We've got this nice long stretch, and you can really build up some speed. I'm almost at the end here. I'm going to stitch right off. And we are going to take our scissors, and we're just going to cut this even. I like to fold it back and then cut that fold because it gives me a straighter cut. Now we're going to go to the top again, and I like to finger press that. I know it's an extra step, but I like to finger press this whole seam because it makes the ironing later so much easier. But this is an extra step. If you just like to iron it all when you're done, you can eliminate this step. But I really think it'll save you time if you do this. So I'm finger pressing, I'm pulling it open and pressing that seam to the side. Now we're just going to take our strip from our box again, and we are going to start the next row. We're just going to put this right at the top, and we're going to start sewing. You can see the secondary pattern showing up now. This isn't even ironed yet, but because we finger pressed, it's laying really flat. But you see how these are very evenly spaced? And that's going to happen no matter what size quilt you make. Now, if your first row is not 70 inches, your line of accents may end up being more angled like this or more angled like that, but you will get the even angles, and that just gives it a really awesome secondary pattern. It's really, really fun. So I'm going to put a border on this, and then I'm going to get it quilted up, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Look at how nice this quilt turned out. I know I made it, but I'm really, really happy with it. So you may not know, but most of the quilts we make for our videos, it's the first time I've made the pattern. So I have never made this quilt before until I made this one. And can you see how the accents made those really nice diagonal lines? It looks like I planned it all out on purpose so they would hit at exact intervals. And they do hit at exact intervals. That's because we did one row and cut it and then moved up and did the next row. So what happens is these end up very, very even. Again, if your first row is longer or shorter, yours might end up making this pattern or that pattern, but they're still going to be nice and even. I quilted this pattern in a design called Calm Waters, and it looks very much like ocean ripples. And it's a pattern designed by Anne Bright, and we have this on our computer on our Gamble machine. I really like the movement of this, and I use this a lot when we do batiks. Now on the back, I used a more abstract batik. That is a batik. Again, looks very watery to me, even though it's a greenish, but the colors, the blues and yellows and greens match so nicely with the top. So the patchwork was 48 by 70, and then I added a 2-inch cut border and a 4.5-inch cut border. So now it's about 58 by 80, which is just a perfect throw size. Really, one of the best parts of this pattern is that you can dictate what size it comes out. So I used 1 jelly roll here. You can use 2 jelly rolls, 3 jelly rolls, and you can make it come out exactly the length you want. And we'll have all that information on the free pattern that'll be on our website. Thanks for watching our tutorial today on how to make the jelly roll race. We hope you enjoyed it. Now, we're having another giveaway. We're going to give away a gift certificate. So this is really nice because you can come to our website or come to our store if you live locally, and you can pick out $100 worth of stuff to make your favorite quilt with. Good luck.